Alright, seriously, before this gets going, spoiler warning, like actual spoiler warning, not like haha funny, oh haha. I'm just it's obligatory spoiler warning. I mean actual like serious for real spoiler warning. Like don't watch this video if you haven't played the game. Don't watch this video. You know, there's a whole lot of subgenres out there in the realm of video games. That's one of those fun quirks of your preferred medium or art. They'll have these little nuances about what makes each one different. A lot of the times they'll be defined by one particular game that basically created that whole subgenre. I mean, how many times have you heard the term Souls-like in your life? It's enough to make a man go mad. Other genres, though, are more general. You got your strategy games, your horror games, your RPGs, and then somewhere in the middle you've got this huge gray area where almost anything goes. Arena shooter, team-based shooters, skateboard games. You got plenty to choose from, but one that tends to come up a lot is fairly simple, at least by comparison. It's the space games. Everybody likes space. It's just neat to look at and think about. Imagine flying up there in your rocket ship and exploring the stars. Or, alternatively, killing each other in space. I guess we just can't help ourselves with that one. Space as a setting is itself a genre. It brings with it a whole slew of expectations and ideas that merit a thorough exploration, mechanically, thematically, or aesthetically. The earliest forms of what we consider sci-fi had their roots in people actually trying to speculate on the future, like, yeah, dude, we're gonna get to the moon by shooting ourselves out of a cannon. No one had a counter argument for that. It's like that guy who jumped off the Eiffel Tower to test his parachute and everyone was like, don't do it. And he's like, why? And I guess no one could come up with an answer as to why jumping off the Eiffel Tower was a bad idea. Space games have been around as long as the medium has. I mean, hell, if we wanted to get really technical, the original computer calculations that were being made during the space race are the foundation of modern computer hardware theory. So really, we have the cold vacuum of the void to thanks for fucking Pokemon. There is a long, proud tradition of games taking you amongst the stars and creating some of the most impactful, memorable experiences there are. Not just in terms of visuals or something, by the way, I'm talking mechanical depth and complexity. A lot of these titles were really pushing the boundaries of the technology at the time. To be fair, most of this was being done on PCs and other similar hardware. You wouldn't be playing Wing Commander on your SNES, that's for sure. Oh, wait, no, I guess you can play Wing Commander on your SNES. Anyways, there's a lot you can do in that cold vacuum that has captured the industry's imagination. It sure would be a shame if that fascination was taken advantage of for years with no end in sight. And honestly, can you blame people? It's like the MMO conundrum. Everybody wants to play that perfect, seamless MMO game that creates a living, breathing world. And then they get New World, where the whole realistic thing about it is, oh, the economy is really, really bad. Now, what's the actual reason for space games being so interesting? Well, to get technical, it's the confluence of mechanical complexity demanded of an accurate portrayal of the void, with larger overarching concepts filtered through a setting or narrative. You watch Star Trek because of the cool sci-fi stuff and its musings about nature, philosophy, personality, culture, and all that other good stuff. In short, you need both, which, I mean, that's true of every game, really, but video games have it that tough. You know, I mean, you're gonna get judged for just about everything. God help you if the graphic fidelity isn't making your rig chug like a fucking tank engine. Remember No Man's Sky? There's a space game that messed all this up. I hear it's good now, which I don't know if I believe that, but I'd certainly like to be, proven wrong, I guess. No Man's Sky was about space exploration, like an actual real exploration game, landing on any planet you want and flying around the galaxy, etc., etc. And it came out the other end not really doing any of that. It had the flying and the space and planets, but all of it was boring, dead. It was lifeless filler, which is actually most of space, but I mean, I don't think that part was intentional. No Man's Sky kinda sucked. It had everything that could make up a truly excellent exploration game, but couldn't deliver on it for a variety of reasons. But probably the biggest is scale. You see, space is big. There's a pretty strong pull towards making a space game big. It doesn't really work though most of the time. Like, go to Mass Effect, great game for the most part. And then you drop on some planet in the Mako and you're like, I don't know, gamer, this doesn't sit well. Mass Effect isn't an exploration game per se, but the principle is the same. Its finer moments are contained in its smaller, more thoroughly crafted moments, not in taking advantage of the larger open galaxy concept it kinda helped to popularize. It also doesn't help that a lot of sci-fi doesn't really try to put the science into science fiction, and no, I'm not trying to tip my fedora. I'm not gonna ask you for a fucking peer-reviewed study on the Grove from Citadel and how it got to Tau Ceti 5, which it was a wormhole, by the way. But I don't know, man. We're a long ways off from Clark and Asimov, is all I'm saying. The modern audience and the modern AAA industry just don't have time for more contemplative or mechanically nuanced aspects of space travel and exploration that you could pull off if you put some effort into it. And yeah, I think you know where we're going with this. An indie game saved the day again. It's not like I want to compliment indie developers. I think they could be hack frauds like anyone else. It's just, we're not dealing with some bog standard pixel shit that takes a decade for you to pretend to make. Oh yeah, I'm gonna sling some shit in this one. Funnily enough, around the time No Man's Sky was bumbling its way through development, another space game was getting off the ground. Crowdfunding used to be all the rage, and funding a game was honestly not that hard, so all you could really have expected was another game that would probably come out. I said probably would come out. It's probably gonna come out. Cut to 2019, and suddenly tons of people are talking about some space game that frankly fell off the radar for a while, and I never heard of it until my friends were going on about how good it was. I kind of brushed it off at the time. I wasn't really interested in exploration games. I kind of thought it'd be a boring slog, or worse. I was giving it the Disco Elysium treatment, you see? And just like Disco Elysium, I probably shouldn't have ignored it. That's because there's something about the Outer Wilds. Alright, first things first. The name. I can't express how unfortunate it is that this game has to share a naming convention with one of the most mediocre RPGs ever made. I mean, really. The Outer Worlds is just awful. I can't even begin to explain where to start with how bad it is. It's, oh, hey, we're Obsidian. We made, remember Fallout New Vegas? I promise everybody who made Fallout New Vegas still works here. I promise. I'm Microsoft. Would I ever lie to you? Would I ever do that? Would I ever lie to you? Whatever. I just wanted to say that since I see people still get them mixed up and they're nothing alike, and yes, even I get them fucked up from time to time, I want to say that. Second, of all the things I'm going to start with, it's going to be the soundtrack, because god damn, what a weird turnaround this ended up being. Enter Andrew Pralo? Enter Andrew Pralo. Andrew Pralo. I'm not saying that right. Definitely not. Outer Wilds composer did a real fucking bang-up job. The score is literally the first thing the game confronts you with, so it better be good. And yeah, it's good. Alright, dude, we're making a space game with a naturalist aesthetic to it. We need some chill music that we can use. You mind whipping something up for us, boy? And he was like, finally, I've been waiting for this my whole life. And he looks at the closet, and there, the banjo. I can't honestly express how good the soundtrack is without just playing it. And it's so important that it be good. It's very easy to imagine a space game where there isn't a decent soundtrack. It's not really all that high on the list of priorities, quite frankly. Not that it's high on any list of priorities nowadays, but you get what I mean. It's the first thing you agree with when you start the game, and it remains a vital fixture of the entire experience from then on. And it all remains fresh and varied. Every planet gets its own theme alongside important areas, events, narrative reveals, all that good stuff. most notable about it is the actual instrument choice. Outer Wilds is a space game, science fiction, and that genre tends to have more artificial kind of sounds and ideas that go along with it. I'm sure there was some heavy incentive to lean more into the typical stylings of a sci-fi soundscape. Like, I don't think anyone would really blame them for relying on synths and electronics for a soundtrack, but it's really a good thing they didn't. The entire tone of the game relies on the juxtaposition of the more natural-sounding acoustics and simple, almost primitive instrumentation against the whole space thing. And it's not like there aren't some tracks that lean into the more traditional, like, sci-fi soundscape. It's just that it obviously isn't trying to be like that at all. It's probably one of the things people who haven't played the game know about. It's that front and center, that obvious to the casual observer. The tracks are tonally neutral enough to fit most of the stuff you'll be doing on any given planet or location, but still have enough character to them that they actually have a reason for being used where they are. Especially since you're going to be hearing some of them a lot while exploring. Especially if you're not very good at the game. Given that the game has such an open-ended design philosophy, I can only imagine how hard it was to pull this off well. You would go to any planet at any time, and you needed a unique track that blended well with the state of that planet or location at that time. Regardless of how close you were to the end of a loop, it's really impressive, okay? You can pick out any Outer Wilds song instantly. They're simply that good, that easy to remember, and that hard to forget. Something it shares with the rest of the game, as a matter of fact. You see, space is explorable, which, I mean, no shit, right? It's the void, dude. You can go anywhere you want. But remember, this is a video game, okay? There's only so much space on your SSD for a game to install its bloatware, so you gotta have limits at some point. Open world games get a pretty bad rap nowadays, and with good reason. When Ubisoft first embarked on their dark quest to destroy all good things, the first idea they decided to ruin was open worlds, and everyone followed suit not long after. Most often, the criticism you'll hear about open worlds is that they're empty, there's nothing to do, that they're just filler, and a lot of the time that's kind of correct. Most open worlds exist because it checks a box on the design by committee list of AAA mechanics, and so they're kind of just shoved where they don't belong or don't matter. Other times, though, they actually have something useful or important to them, and that's what Outer Wilds does to a T. Technically speaking, it's an open world game. Open solar system, to be more precise. The game is limited entirely to a single star system, which I bet for a lot of people was a real sticking point. Like, dude, we're in space, you gotta go all over. And it's like, no, you really don't need to do that. Ask Starfield how effective that idea was. How interesting all those barren rocks were. And no, I don't care if it's realistic. That's not the only bad thing about Starfield's open world design. Don't even talk to me. Open worlds ironically work better when they're smaller, more concentrated. The actual function of the world in question gets funneled into something that's tangible that the developer can actually work with. Outer Wilds limiting the game's size was the biggest favor it could do itself. The amount of stuff you'll be thinking about or focusing on won't be interfered with simply because the modern video game audience wants a bigger galaxy map. Besides, the plants the game already has are intricate enough that they blow most levels in any other game out of the freaking airlock. I'm talking no competition here. Hearth is the quintessential home planet. It's where you're from, where your people are from. It's a cozy place, seemingly safe from the goings-on of the rest of the universe. The Hearthians have a fledgling little space program, the proverbial Outer Wilds, rocketing off into space on journeys across the system. Hearth setting the tone as this simple, quiet home for the player is what makes the rest of the game feel so alien. Hearth is an analog for Earth. I mean, it's even got Earth in the name there. Usually, space exploration is this big ordeal. You gotta get your delicious space paste and your space water, put on your space suit, and get in your spaceship to go to space. And God help you if you don't have enough space in your spaceship for all the space shit you're gonna be bringing back from space. That is to say that human space exploration is very complicated. We take it very seriously. Not the Hearthians, though. For them, space exploration is just a camping trip without gravity. or maybe more gravity. It depends on the planet. It's funny though, while Timber Hearth is the starting planet of the game, it still does have some important stuff, both in terms of exploration and thematic significance. Like, yeah, you're gonna be rocketing off into space for like 99% of your playthrough, but Timber Hearth is still setting up what the game is really about. You're going off into space, leaving one forest for another. While Timber Hearth is the first planet you're actually on, the first planet you ever see isn't actually your forested home. It's the planet right next door, the storm-ravaged water world of Giant's Deep. Side note, I'm sitting here recording this, and while I was writing the script, I kept writing Titan's Deep, and then I went down and realized, oh my god, every time I meant Giant's Deep, I just wrote Titan's Deep for some reason. I had to replace it all. I feel like such a moron. I just played this game. I just played this game for the video. While you're encouraged to go wherever you want right from the start, I suspect that the developers probably wanted you to go to Giant's Deep first. Either that or Brittle Hollow. I'll make that argument in a second. Every planet is going to teach you a lot of the same things, albeit in different ways, but some tend to do it a little more flamboyantly than others. Titan's Deep is here to explain to you, oh, I did it again. How did I miss that one? Giant's Deep is here to explain to you that gravity is out to get you. See, space is dangerous. The stars are out to get you, bro. You have to be careful. Giant's Deep isn't likely to outright kill you, but it's gonna make you think it is, that's for sure. Dying in the Outer Wilds isn't that big a deal. In fact, it's the whole point of the game, given that you Groundhog's Day back every time you bite the dust. It's always a present thought in your mind that, well, what you're doing is truly a risky endeavor. And let me tell you, if you get cocky, you're done for. Space is gonna fuck you up big time. Here's just a selection of my fuck-ups. How about all the times I crashed my ship like an idiot? Like, the autopilot is out to get you in this game. The only thing I can compare it to, and this is gonna sound dumb, but bear with me, is that it has the reliability of the homing attack from Sonic Adventure. Like, you need to use it under careful supervision, because if you don't, it's just gonna rocket you into the sun. Falling off things is an old pastime of mine in any game, so, I mean, I'm not really surprised that this game has plenty of falling off things, frankly. And don't even get me started on the anglerfish. But all this is a realistic level of danger. It's not like the universe is really out to get you. It's just kind of doing what it does. The world you live in just has rules, regardless of whether you believe God did it or Darwin clause. We've all got to deal with the same gravity. And boy, does Giant's Deep love its gravity. It's a planet that has way more than Timber Hearth, which makes even breaching the atmosphere a risky proposition. If you're not already firing your retros as you go through the cloud layer, you're in trouble, buddy. That's not even to mention that massive storm and the tornadoes. You run into one of those, and you're on a one-way trip back into space, buddy. Those things are so strong, they'll rip the islands out of the water and send them hurtling into orbit for a few moments. That's how strong they have to be. Funnily enough, the safest place on Giant's Deep is underwater. Your ship is thankfully quite effective as a submarine as well as a spacecraft, so you can just kind of hide down there if you're so inclined. Don't go too deep though. Getting down there is going to take a bit more work than just firing your boosters. In orbit of Giant's Deep is the Nomai probe cannon. That's the thing that you see fire at the beginning of every loop. And it's there to be your first genuine physics challenge, assuming you go there first. You have to put yourself in a stable orbit with a satellite that itself is in a stable orbit above a planet that's desperately trying to pull your ship into itself if you maneuver wrong. Plus, you actually have to get out of your ship and leave it in space, so you can go inside the station to see how fucked up it is. Oh yeah, I should probably explain the Nomai. They're kind of important. As it turns out, space is populated, which means you're kind of following in the footsteps of giants here. It would be fairly difficult to pull together a cohesive or thematically coherent narrative in a game where you spend all your time staying as far away from civilization as humanly, Hearthianly possible? Precursor aliens are nothing special. They're so unspecial, I don't even need to mention that there's actually 2 precursor aliens in the game, because they both fulfill the same purpose, and also, I didn't play the DLC because I didn't want to. The Nomai are the dudes who lived in the solar system before you, which means they called dibs on all the planets first and went around putting plot things on them, so you can find them thousands of years later. As far as precursors go, the Nomai are a lot more chill than what you get out of basically any other sci-fi property. They're a race of travelers that go around learning stuff about the universe, which I think, and I'm just speculating here, but I think that might be important. Since they're the guys you're meant to be chasing after, making them into an actual society and culture that you can grapple with in the present had to be a priority, even though it was also going to be absurdly difficult. Given that they're all dead, it's going to be kind of hard to get to know them. I mean, you're not likely to have much of a conversation with one at the very least. Outer Wilds decided to focus on the always faithful and always kind of annoying text logs that inhabit oh so many games. That sounds bad at face value. Reading is boring, or so they would have you believe. That's usually because text logs are long and have little if any real value to reading them. Most get added as a formality. Outer Wilds avoids this problem with a very simple power that most games, YouTubers, politicians, academia, and basically everyone on the planet should take advantage of more often. Brevity. Just say what you need to say. Don't elongate it for the word count. That just wastes everyone's time. It's a problem games with lots of text have. If you want good examples of how to avoid this, a lot of old JRPGs and text-based games like Ace Attorney knew how to fit a lot of information to a small amount of text. That might be why they decided to stylize all the written text in these wavy spirals or onto small recording devices. Using your patented Nomai translator-anator, you can read stuff off these Nomai message boards just like you do when you read all the stupid shit your friends post in your Discord. What follows, though, is much more than some simple text log about trade routes or sourcing materials for all that space stuff. It's actually about the interconnected relationships of this small, fledgling society of explorers trying to continue their way of life. There are recurring characters, writing quirks, motifs, small interconnected plot lines alongside the technical information the player needs to solve the mystery of the time loop. It's entirely possible to follow the little through lines of the lives of these characters, even though you'll obviously never meet them. Recognizing who is who can be difficult, obviously, given that it's all just text, but every line where the writer's identity is irrelevant has their name at the start to make sure you know who's who. Anything that lacks a signature is usually meant for the technical information, or it's meant to be anonymous on purpose. It's kind of strange in a way, being this voyeur of a dead civilization. You get a fairly intimate look into the lives of these people, trudging through the remains of their homes and workplaces. And at first glance, that might just seem like a video game-ism, the way you do the same thing in Fallout or whatever. But that's not really the case. Everyone is dead for a reason. You're supposed to take in the civilization because without them, a journey to the stars would just be a trot through some exotic environments, which is fine, but probably wouldn't warrant a particularly deep philosophical discussion, now would it? If you can buy that all these Nomai had real lives, that it mattered to them what the state of those lives actually were and what their society was like, while still being a science-y space alien race, then suddenly the entire point of the game starts to change. Coming out here into the cosmos is a personal journey, sure, but it's more than just seeing a bunch of pretty lights and colors. It's about the history of the universe itself and all the stories you didn't get to see, all the wondrous triumphs and horrible tragedies. Those message boards serve one other purpose. They can sometimes just tell you where you need to go, and that's a perfectly good thing. I know I'm spending a lot of time complimenting the game for not needing to tell you where to go, but there's also nothing wrong with sometimes just saying, why don't you go here, dummy? As long as you're looking around places you've never been, you're unlikely to get lost. But at times when technically complicated solutions and abstract concepts become more prevalent in the game's latter stages, you'll need at least a few things to be explained to you. It's nice to see a game about problem solving rather than combat, by the way. It would have been reasonable for a space game to have some small amount of conflict, but honestly that's so passé at this point, it's better that they just completely ignored it. That's where I'd say Brittle Hollow comes into play, where Giant's Deep is a relatively safe, albeit disorienting place about honing your exploration skills. Brittle Hollow is a plan about logic puzzles and problem solving. At the start of every loop, Brittle Hollow is a perfectly fine rock planet with a few dead trees dotted about, and then its moon decides that its fellow celestial body has had it good for far too long, and starts dropping bombs on the poor thing. Oh, also, There's a black hole in the center of the planet. Obviously, exploring this place is going to be a bit tricky, with all the Nomai structures built underground inside of the planet. It's really easy to fall into that black hole like an idiot, or like me, which any reasonable person would say is a bad idea. Navigating the planet without falling is the main challenge, or at least it would be until you get to the Tower of Quantum Knowledge. Knowledge. Quantum stuff keeps getting name dropped every once in a while. This is probably the most notable inclusion of it up to this point. Whatever it is, it was important enough for the Nomai to build a freaking tower for people to make pilgrimages to, so whatever's in there must be some juicy information. It's a shame there's no way you're getting in. In fact, there were lots of places back on Giant's Deep where you probably ran into the same issue. Every planet has problems like these. There's no straightforward way to progress sometimes, which should probably tell you something. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, you just lack context, you lack information. If you knew what you were doing, you could beat the game in 15 minutes. But until you reach that point, you're gonna look up into that tower and just say, I'll come back later. I'm sure that would frustrate a lot of people, but in a game where everything resets every 22 minutes, it really shouldn't matter. The time limit is fake, or rather, it's not a time limit at all. Just another mechanic for you to take advantage of. If there is one criticism I could level at the game, it would be that the way time affects the gameplay, it's really weird. Most planets are impacted by how long you are into a loop, and while that's super cool and unique, sometimes it can become annoying when you're focused on like one specific thing you want to do, but it only becomes feasible several minutes in. There's no perfect way to pass time, by the way. You could do it by campfires, but you can't set the time like waiting in a Bethesda game, so you kind of have to eyeball it. Brittle Hollow suffers from that a bit, since bits of the planet are falling into the black hole all the time. If you wanted to say, enter that quantum tower thingy, then you're shit out of luck until it too tumbles into the planet's core. I'm quite happy that the black hole doesn't actually kill you. It certainly looks like it would, but the entirety of Brittle Hollow's navigation segments revolving around the increased gravity from the hole and having to time jumps without falling is really compelling. Eventually, you will fall in. You're not perfect, and so when you do and pop out the other side far off from the rest of the planets and realize wormhole teleportation is actually pretty safe, it's a nice aha moment, of which the game has plenty. But yeah, anyways, the tower, the quantum bullshit. If there's one actually cool, interesting thing you're going to learn from the Outer Wilds, it's going to be quantum mechanics, something that real-life academia could only dream of pulling off. Teaching stuff in a game is hard enough without a boring tutorial to put you to sleep, but Outer Wilds pulls it off by just letting you see it in action. You'd be hard-pressed to get a reasonable, real-life explanation of quantum mechanics, let alone a visual one, so just seeing what happens is enough to help you connect the dots. It's also only something that you can do in a video game. Everything revolves around observation, so actually seeing the quantum objects in question and then subsequently ceasing your observation so they can seemingly appear somewhere else has to be a controllable variable. The player has to choose when, where, and how to observe an object to be able to manipulate it, which forms the backbone of one of the best puzzles I've ever played in any game ever. Alright, it's time to start throwing that shade I mentioned. All this quantum stuff, among basically everything else in the game, is one big giant neon sign level reason to not spoil yourself on this game, not to look up anything, because if you do, you're just making yourself look like a moron. The point of a game about discovering new things is that you actually discover new things. You find solutions on your own, and just overall actually play the game, which some people in the world get paid huge sums to do. This is, unironically, like using an aimbot in a single-player game. At least when someone cheats in a multiplayer game, it's because the guys they're playing against are an actual threat. The least you can do is try a little more than not at all. Learning all this isn't actually required. The entire Quantum Moon objective doesn't have anything to do with actually beating the game. Instead, it's meant to give better context to the world and the mysteries of the universe that you and the late Nomai have been chasing after. Putting plot-crucial details like that in an optional side objective is a bit risky, but it's also just great. Everyone can name a few games where the developers were so scared of you missing something that they intentionally made it impossible to miss. It ruins the intrigue that comes with the discovery of things in a goddamn exploration game. Anyways, the Quantum Moon is awesome. It's such a departure from what the rest of the game is like that when you get there, you really feel like an anglerfish out of water. You're not in any danger, but even with all the knowledge of how to manipulate quantum mechanics to your advantage, it's still a fairly weird experience. The reward is one of those big oh shit moments of the game, which, like I said, there's plenty of stuff like that. And the build up to it, well, with the whole system-wide adventure you have to go on just to get there, makes it all the more impactful. It's also helping you learn one more lesson. It doesn't really matter how weird the game is gonna get. You'll probably be okay as long as you keep going. Which is important, given the next planet is, Dark Bramble is kind of weird. See, unlike the rest of the planets, its whole gimmick sort of curtails a lot of the ideas you could use on other, less hostile worlds. The entire central conceit of Dark Bramble is that it's the most overtly hostile location in the game. You know, if the horrible, monstrous core that makes up the planet's center didn't give that away. While the plan is navigation focused like all the others, here you stay in your ship for most of it, and with good cause, since you're not the only one prowling through this fog-filled world within a world. The anglerfish, or lantern, whatever the name is, the fish are some big, mean bastards, with some great sound design that makes them really menacing. They work far better than the kind of monsters you see in actual horror games by virtue of being a conditional threat. As long as you don't make any noise or bump into them, they won't become hostile, but that doesn't mean you can easily avoid them outright. Their inclusion is maybe a little bit out of place though in a game that isn't supposed to be so obviously dangerous. But they, along with Dark Bramble, are here for two reasons. First, this is the most difficult planet to navigate because it may or may not be the planet that you go to actually beat the frickin' game. And since you're on a timer until the sun explodes, having a serious navigation hazard here is kind of mandatory. Secondly though, Dark Bramble is here to remind you that space is scary, dude. Not like in that dumb cosmic horror obvious way of being scary. It's not like, oh, watch out for the spooky alien or something. No, space is scary in the same way as the oceans, or the woods, or Akron, Ohio. Some things in the world are just like that, you know? They have the unfortunate, innate quality of being unnerving, without any design or intent therein. The noise that all the quantum stones make is weird and eerie because it just does that. It's just a rock, dude. It's not actually trying to scare you. If anything, it's trying to do the opposite. Games would do this sometimes, having that one level or area that's just scary or disconcerting for whatever reason. It was meant to be tonally different to the rest of the experience, to juxtapose the rest of the game, and usually they were well placed enough to avoid any whiplash. Outer Wilds has that built in as a feature for the entire game. Not only because it's an exploration game, but because space as a setting lends itself to being weird and creepy. The anglerfish play into that deep sea motif. Real anglerfish are freaky as hell, so translating that into a big space anglerfish that tricks you with its light thingy is really cool, as well as just butt-clenchingly terrifying. As someone who doesn't like being jump-scared in video games, and who has an innate fear of the deep sea, this section is probably my least favorite. Because fuck you! But it's not the developer's fault or anything. The heightened danger in comparison to the rest of the planets is enough to make each foray into the planet itself a unique and memorable experience, even if there's only a few things to find inside. It shouldn't surprise you that the planet went through a lot of design changes over time. If you're interested, the Outer Wilds wiki has some really great comprehensive articles on all the alpha versions of the planets, and it's just cool. It's really cool. I think most players realize once they go in that Dark Bramble is going to play a pretty significant role once it becomes clear that there's only like 3 things to find in it. Now, is Dark Bramble really the most important planet? You can make an argument for it, but I think in terms of solving the central mystery of the entire game, it's really not that huge of a factor. It's important for beating the game, but every planet is just, doing that also in its own way. Hourglass Twins is probably the last planet most players will focus on for several reasons. First, it being closest to the sun means that relative to Timberhearth, it's farther away from the others, but unlike Dark Bramble, it's not nearly as visually eye-catching. Most of the time you see it, the plants will be silhouetted against the sun, so you'll miss any real details that might encourage you to go there when you're already hot on the trail of something else. You will go at some point, but in terms of making a planet your main focus, it mostly lacks the pull that other worlds will have. Hourglass Twin is most notable for having smaller, detached things to find that relate to other planets. So you'll make some trips there every once in a while, like to the High Energy Lab, or to find another quantum object, or one of your astronaut buddies. But aside from that, you might feel it necessary to go anywhere else but there. By the time you do go, you're probably far enough into the game to know about most of the story, and that it seems the Nomai are responsible for both the time loop and the sun exploding. Only one of those things is actually true, but you don't know that, not until you get to the sun station. The sun station seems like it's where you're supposed to go. I mean, it's the station orbiting the sun. That seems kind of important, doesn't it? The expectation is that you'll find the last answers you need to put together the entire picture. The Nomai blew up the sun to power the time loop. But then you get inside. The sun station doesn't work. It never worked. The Nomai aren't blowing up the sun by accident thousands of years after their demise. The sun is just doing that. And the more observant players will have noticed that all the suns and stars are doing the same thing. Normally, the Nomai are supposed to give you answers to your questions. That's the whole reason you go around investigating their ruins and relics. And yet, when you get to the end, expecting a proper conclusion, you find out that there is none. These scholarly and wise, advanced Nomai failed, despite how hard they tried. Their goal in coming to the solar system was to find the eye of the universe, and yet their battle against the enormity of space, those vast distances and incalculable odds, failed. They never found what they were looking for, and neither did you. Feels kinda shitty, huh? Good. It should. The Sun Station is the big recontextualization of the entire game. You're on your own journey, sure, but you're following the Nomai on theirs as well. Seeing their society, how it evolved, how they lived and died, and eventually how they failed, is what the game is actually about. The Nomai failed, but not because they were wrong about anything, they just didn't have the time to pull it off. How many things in the world could be summed up like that? You know, they built cathedrals in the Middle Ages that took decades to build. You think the architects and builders got to see it all the way through? So how do you beat the game? Can you beat the game? Going to the Sun Station should be an indication that you missed something that's really important. Maybe all these planets you were going to had more to them than just the exploration and the tragedy of a lost civilization. See, every planet in the game is actually giving you a piece of the puzzle to beating it. Again, except for Timberhearth, but that's the starting planet, so you know. On Giant Steep, you could find the coordinates for the Eye of the Universe that the Nomai were looking for, courtesy of that probe that fires at the start of every loop. Brittle Hollow explains the existence of the power core, how it was made, and what it can actually do. Hourglass Twin houses the actual project that maintains the loop, and it's powered by that same core I mentioned. And Dark Bramble is where the Nomai vessel is located. It's what got them to the solar system in the first place, but going back to it was obviously way too dangerous for them to try. But you don't really have to worry about that, do you? This time for sure. The rocket ship is not stopping.
Yeah, you spoke way too soon.
Well, it's a sign. That's what I get for using autopilot. It's okay, we're just a little... Well...
Just a tad fucked.
We're just a little bit off on our split, that's all.
Putting all this together is pretty cool. The Nomai did pull off their plan in the end, they just didn't get to see it. It's up to the player to pick up the torch of finding the eye, not because it will fix the universe or something, but because you've seen how far this space journey got before tripping at the finish line. If the universe is gonna end, might as well see what's in it before it's all gone. Once you pull out that core and leave the planets, it's the only time in the game that the time limit finally becomes a time limit. The ending loop theme starts to play early. Suddenly you become very aware that performing your typically nonchalant tasks of exploration have some real weight to them. Dying at this point in the game doesn't reset the loop. You get an actual game over instead. You could still start over, obviously. It is still a video game. But the point is that you need to take this part seriously. You have to play the game like your life has meaning, because this time it does. Oh, I mean, it always did. You just never thought about it until now. The music continues to build up once you reach the vessel. You fly inside, and really at this point you're perfectly safe. You could put the coordinates in and make the warp jump, but it doesn't feel like you have enough time. I think it was a great choice to have Dark Bramble be an enclosed space, because it's the only planet where you can't really see the sun. Even on Giant's Deep, a quick burn on your jetpack or retros can pull you out of the atmosphere back into space. That's the same for everywhere else, but not Dark Bramble. The sun could be exploding right now and you couldn't see it. And again, that music is brilliant. That soundtrack has been one home run after the other. So when you finally get that last number, I think it's a number? It's a chord, it has to be a number. When you get the last number in and flip that switch, it cuts. The eye is surreal, because of course it is. You'd think with the way the cosmos is full of all these infinite possibilities, that you'd see some nice things at some point. Why does the eye have to be a swirling vortex of inconceivable quantum nonsense, when it could be literally anything else? For all the bluster that the eye is giving off as you walk its surface, you're really not in any danger. In a game about not being afraid to venture into the unknown and explore, the game ends with you venturing off into the unknown to explore, only weirder, purpler. There's a lot to read into with the ending. It comes back to that thing I mentioned about aesthetics and theming. Your sci-fi tends to have lots of high-minded flourishes and ideas to make it look really smart. When it works, it looks, well, smart, but other times it just looks like it's trying too hard. They rarely have any actual insights, let alone interesting visuals, something that Outer Wilds has in both regards. Do you really think it's just an aesthetic flourish that Timber Hearth has a naturalist bent to it? Did you really think that the forest motif was a coincidence? Leaving one forest for another? Hey, remember how I kept talking about what space is? Like how I was putting weird emphasis on it, almost like I wanted you to pay more attention to it. Space is a forest. It's like it's basically the same thing. And no, I don't mean it in like that stupid dark forest theory thing. Like, I get that's an actual possible explanation for the Fermi paradox and blah blah, but in a fictional context, all it ends up doing is just turning space into some grimdark, dude, everyone is out to kill each other kind of dichotomy. It's just boring. Everyone is always trying to kill each other all the time in fiction now. It's so dumb. Just like a forest, space just is. It just does that. It just exists and exhibits all these features by the nature of it being what it is. And that includes all the things that happen in it. I know a lot of people take Outer Wilds to be this kind of nihilistic tragedy about how nothing matters because the universe is going to end eventually. And I think that's a grave misunderstanding of the entire game. In Outer Wilds, everything matters. Not just because I, a hack YouTube video game essayist type, said so. It matters for two simple reasons. First, it matters to you. And secondly, it matters to the universe. Everything that you saw in the game mattered to you, didn't it? At least a little. If you made it this far in the video, then I expect the answer to be yes. Unless you're hate watching this, in which case, what did I do to you? Was it the Batman Spider-Man video? I have bad news, okay? I didn't hate Spider-Man when I made that video, like people in the comments said I did, but just in the last few weeks of playing Marvel Rivals, in which I faced a Spider-Man in about, all of my quick play matches. All of them, literally every single one. I hate him now. I do seriously hate him now. So I guess you came to the right place. But I digress. The game matters to you. The lives of the Nomai mattered to you. Their triumphs and failures all mattered. Just because they're gone doesn't mean everything they did was pointless. In fact, everything they did is the exact opposite, if only because their plan totally worked. But see, it doesn't just matter to you, though. It matters to the eye of the universe. And the eye of the universe is itself the universal constant, therefore meaning that anything and everything ever since the beginning of all things ever is important. The eye of the universe cares enough about you, about the Nomai and the dying universe, so much that it's been trying to get someone's attention for eons. You're just the first goon to figure it out. And what does it do when you find it? Does it mind break you with its infinite purple spooky rock powers? No! It drops you in a forest and asks you to play a song. So I kind of lied to you about the music thing. I started the video with it because it's the first thing you're presented with in the game. That part was true. But there's something else. Sound. Space isn't capable of transmitting sound. That's not how that works at all. Space is a vacuum and sound requires a medium to travel through. And I'm sure someone's gonna tell me that's actually wrong, but I don't care. And yet the entire game has so much sound, even in space. You use a microphone radio wave thingy to find sound in the game so you can follow it. Not entirely unlike how we in real life use a microphone radio wave thingy to look for life as well. As the game comes to a close in a dark forest, you follow the sound of your fellow astronauts' instruments of choice to bring them all together for one last song. I refuse to believe that this isn't the real guys, by the way. The Eye of the Universe has the ability to do all sorts of things, so there's no reason why it can't just pull them into this weird final pocket of reality. Anyways, this ending lets you take your time. It's calm, but a little spooky, unnerving, but not in a bad way. You're about as safe as someone who's living through the heat death of the universe can be. When everyone is together, they help create a new universe with the only other constant there seems to be: sound. I also refuse to believe that this isn't intentional. Whether you're religious or not, you can't deny a bit of the parallel. How does God bring the world into being? He doesn't snap his fingers or do a gang sign. He speaks it into being, audibly, with sound. I don't tend to get floored by games. It's extremely rare. The kind of stuff that leaves a real impression that makes me do a stupid video like this. I wish more games could be as adventurous or subtle or intriguing or like anything more than what they tend to be. I'm sure part of that could be attributed to Outer Wilds starting as an actual student thesis that ballooned into, hey, what if we made a video game? That sort of passion shines through, eclipsing games that arguably have more to say about the art form or people, or which have more mechanically nuanced features. For me, the best part of the Outer Wilds was seeing that probe come out of the white hole a full second before it went through the black hole. I was super excited. I was wondering both how they did that in the game, but also, does that work in reality? Can I really break the universe if I did something like that? Could I do something like that? It's probably best not to find out, but that thought alone was enough to get me going. And it's only in a game like this. If the game didn't matter to you, you wouldn't have made it to the end of the game. And that's fine. It's an open-ended experience. If you didn't want to beat it, then that's your prerogative. But I find its conclusion to be one that needs to be seen at least once. The kind of game-turned phenomena that turns a fire in the wilderness from a Camp Krusty to a Chernobyl exclusion zone. Games tend to struggle with beauty, not in the, oh, it looks good way, but in the profound, meaningful way that classical art tends to hearken to. I know that sounds a little stupid. I mean, it is just a video game, I guess. But honestly, I can't seem to care. This game was truly beautiful. That's because there's something about the Outer Wilds. What a sorry state we're in.
Entire software.
I don't want to hear it, cocksucker. You're not even playing the game. You're too scared to play this game. Versus me, someone who actually has an irrational fear of giant fish, playing a game where there's a giant fish.
Say the line, Tino. Say the line, we saw puzzles in this house, Tino. Go for it.